Hello and welcome to another episode of Fantasy Friday with Roz and Joe. Today we're going to take a look at the best performers from the last game week in the official Fantasy Premier League. And we're going to take a look through the ins and outs of this mental double game week. Who you should be buying and who you should be selling. Get in the comments for your views and fantasy picks alongside me, Fantasy Football's Wizard of Roz. It is, of course, Roz. Good morning, Roz. How are you?
Not too bad. I like that the double game week this week is sponsored by Star Wars and Stormtroopers, apparently. Yeah, all good, mate. Can't wait to get started.
Lovely. Right. Well, in that case, should we have a look at our teams from last week?
We have to.
So here's mine. We'll start with mine. We'll soften the blow a bit for you. So I got 69 points. A lot of injuries I'm worried about going into next week, but we'll get on to that. Captain Pat Bamford came through for me on his double game week there, with 16 overall. But could have probably gone for Bruno Fernandes as captain because he got 12 on a base. Other than that, no real standouts for me. Looking at you. 42 points. Captain Kane let you down. Why did you go for Kane?
He usually does well against West Ham.
He does, yeah.
I had a feeling.
You had a feeling deep within your soul. Well, apart from that, your Man City players came through for you. Diaz and Stones at the back, and of course the mighty Bruno. We'll have a quick look at the kings of the game week, shall we, for last week? So this is the official kings of the game week 11. 122 points across the board. I'll talk you through it, and then you can tell me any standouts. Pickford in goal with 11. Across the back, Dallas 17, Tarkowski 9, Fernandinho 9, Struijk 8. Interesting one there that Fernandinho is now a defender on fantasy. Harvey Barnes 13. This is midfield now. Rafinha 12, Rashford 12, Fernandes 12, Lookman 11, and Benteke up front with 8. Benteke the highest scoring striker of the game week. Any of those standing out to you as picks or what?
Well, it's interesting what you said about Fernandinho. You often kind of see that sort of players changing position. Usually it's to kind of get them fewer points. So, for example, Lundstrom for Sheffield United was listed as a defender last season. Actually played in midfield for most of the games, so chipped in a few goals. So it was great value there. Usually they try to sort of even that out. So I'd like to point to Stuart Dallas, who is actually by trade a defender, but Bielsa seems to like to play him in the middle there, in a sort of number 8 kind of role. He got a goal last week, and he's looking to kind of, he's kind of held on to that position. So he'd be, I guess, the Lundstrom equivalent of this season.
Yeah, and also the highest point scorer of the game week altogether was 17. That's pretty hardcore, isn't it? 17 points for a defender. For a team that, you wouldn't consider a top team. Let's look at the fixtures going into this double game week then. This mammoth pile up of fixtures. I'm trying to fit them all on the screen, as well as us and the EPLW logo. It looks a bit haphazard, I'm not going to lie. And for some reason, when I was screenshotting the fixtures, I left my cursor over West Brom Brighton. So on our screen, West Brom Brighton is highlighted as it's like as if it's some sort of like important game. But anyway, we got Man City West Ham tomorrow at midday, 12:30. What a way to kick off a game week! Man City West Ham, top versus fourth. Can Man City make it 20 wins in a row in all competitions there? West Brom Brighton at 3 o'clock. Leeds Villa at 5:30. Newcastle Wolves at 8 o'clock. And then Sunday, you got Crystal Palace Fulham at midday, as well as Leicester Arsenal at midday. Spurs Burnley at 2 o'clock. Chelsea Man United at 4:30. Sheffield United Liverpool at 7:15. And then on Monday night, Everton Southampton. Tuesday night, Man City Wolves. Wednesday night, Burnley Leicester, Sheffield United Villa. And the late one, Palace Man United. And then Thursday night, early games, Fulham and Spurs and West Brom Everton at 6. And then Liverpool Chelsea to round it all off at 8:15. Lots and lots of fixtures then to get through there, Roz. What do you think? What what teams should we be looking out for in terms of who's got a good double game week here?
So I've picked out 4, and they might seem like sort of pretty boring ones to pick out. But I think all 4 of these teams have great double game weeks. They're big sides, but I think there's some really good budget options within these teams. So you've got 2 sides from Merseyside. You've got Everton and Liverpool. So Everton have got Southampton and West Bromwich Albion. Both sides not in particularly good form, and Everton, of course, bouncing off that win at Anfield. And Liverpool have got Sheffield United and Chelsea. So Chelsea's kind of, it's not a derby. Well, it's more of a derby than Brighton Palace, but it's sort of a bit of a rivalry there. There's seen some big battles there.
Roz,
so
our 5-a-side games are more of a derby than Brighton Palace. Sorry, bit late coming in with it. I was like, shall I say it? Shall I not say it? So you fancy Liverpool against Chelsea? Is that what you're saying?
I fancy, yes, actually. I think they're due a bounce back, and sometimes, actually, it's interesting. Marcelo Bielsa was saying this week that he hoped that Jack Grealish played for Villa, because actually it gives you a sort of stimulus as a team. If their best player is playing and is sort of a surprise inclusion, then it will sure team up more.
Let's talk about.
It doesn't sound like a good game week.
Let's talk about Jack Grealish actually, because I've got a message from Mus, who Mus of EPLW fame. We shall see him on Sunday. Sent me this message last night about a link to this news article about the guy that was behind the leak of Grealish being injured last week, and he basically, long story short, he created this bot which followed all of the Premier League kind of players and staffs, fantasy football teams, saw who they were transferring in and out, and then tweeted it if lots of them did the same thing. So, excuse me, his Twitter account told everyone that Jack Grealish wasn't playing. No one had said that in a press conference. Everyone was expecting Jack Grealish to play, and then he didn't play. And, Pep Guardiola's called it unethical and unprofessional. But the guy is saying like, it's just information that's already there. I'm just gathering it and putting it together in a tweet. I mean, just a quick one. What's your opinion on that sort of thing? How do you feel about it?
It's some bloke from Norway that's been clever enough to use the information that he's got that's there readily available. I don't particularly have a problem with it. I mean, I think Villa, or Dean Smith's immediate stance was to ban all the Villa players from using fantasy football, which seems a bit ridiculous to me. Why don't you just say that they can't use any of their players? So no Villa players can choose Grealish. It would make more sense. But yeah, it's a bit of a kind of storm in a teacup for me.
Yeah, well, for those who want to follow this guy on Twitter, or the bot, it's called FPL Insider. And while you're there, you may as well follow EPLW Pod as well, which is us, and you can keep up to date with what we're doing. As usual as well, like the video if you're enjoying it. Get in the comments, let us know your opinions on what we're talking about, and we can get you in the conversation. We also have a Patreon page, patreon.com/Joe Carter EPLW, where you can pay a monthly fee to get exclusive content and free stuff. Anyway, back to the games. Sorry. So you're saying for this double game week, you think Liverpool and Everton are the ones to be focusing on?
Well, I've got 2 more on top of that. Plenty of variety, spice of life. Spurs.
You've only got 20 teams to choose from.
Spurs have got Burnley and then Fulham, and of course coming off that big win in Europe, looking pretty good there. And last of all, the really boring one, Man City, of course, because they've got West Ham, tricky fixture there, but also Wolves. They've won 19 games in a row, which is mental.
Yeah, it's not a bad record, is it? So yeah, should we kind of go through the positions now and see who you're saying as can you, if you could give me like an expensive player in that position and a budget option, maybe 1 or 2 in each position. Let's just go for it, shall we? So goalkeeping wise, I'm just going to have a look at my team, I've got Edison in goal on my team, and you've got Edouard Mendy. Will that come into your thinking when you're talking goalkeepers?
So actually, your option is my expensive option. Edison is a great shout. I've got 2 goalkeepers at the moment. So my bench goalkeeper is Schmeichel.
Okay.
I am looking ahead in the next few weeks. Some of my transfers might not make a lot of sense because I think it's in about 5 weeks. There are only 4 or 5 games. Lots of teams aren't playing.
Yeah, all the double game weeks. It's all very well having these big double game weeks, but you do have to, if you're really a serious player, you need to think about those ones where there's only 4 or 5 games because they can kill you instantly.
So I realised my squad is not equipped for that week. So gradually over the next few weeks, I'll be drafting players that might not make a lot of sense, but hopefully I'll be cool for that. But so I haven't decided yet between Schmeichel and Mendy, but I might draft someone else in, and it might be this guy who I was super impressed with, who I actually don't rate as a goalkeeper at all. It's fantasy football, so it's Jordan Pitford. I thought was absolutely superb at Anfield. Didn't put a foot wrong, and it's only 4.8 million.
That is a bargain.
Which is
isn't
a bargain for a goalkeeper in form when their fixtures are Southampton and West Brom.
Do you think the nature of Everton maybe not being the strongest in defence means Pickford is open to making more saves? So he might actually get you more points than an Edison, because Edison might not have any saves to make because Man City so rigid. You know, is there more value in keeping Pickford or drafting Pickford in?
It's a really interesting thing. I mean, like, typically the keepers that tend to do the best are your Nick Popes and teams like that. And I don't think it's necessarily, everyone sort of usually points to defence. Usually those keepers that do well have a solid defence, just approach games where they just let a team come at them and counter-attack. So your Burnleys, for example, won't keep possession. So actually they've got an incredibly good regimented defence, which means they get clean sheets. I would say with Everton, I wouldn't go for Pitford for too long. I think that form is temporary, class is permanent. I think he's in very good form. I don't think he's class. So, but certainly bouncing off that win at Anfield, I think he's the one to go for.
Okay, cool. Let's take a look at defenders, shall we? So, any of the kings of the game week getting in your defensive options? I'll just remind you who they were again. Dallas and Strike from Leeds, and then Tarkowski of Burnley, Fernandinho of Man City. Any of those 4 coming into your kind of recommendations for high budget, low budget defenders?
Funnily enough, no, but they can't have been far off. Would be the 3 Man City defenders, Cancelo, Diaz, and John Stones. All of whom are the exact same price. They're 6.1, which is pretty expensive for a defender. But I remind everyone that actually João Cancelo doesn't really play as a defender. He's sort of become the guy that makes it tick. He's stepping into that kind of.
It's unbelievable. I feel like João Cancelo, we're witnessing. This is a slight tangent away from the fantasy side of things, but we're witnessing something I've never seen before in football. I don't think many people have. You know, you're watching commentators, and they're not sure how to describe what he's doing, because he's playing left back, but he's like an inside forward who cuts in on his right, and he's playing balls to the far post like some sort of like Beckham-esque like crosser. It's just unbelievable. It's so you've got to have him in your team, and you might even centre your team around him if you're that way inclined.
I think it just goes to show that if you're in the business of buying £50 million fullback after £50 million fullback, 7th time's the charm.
7th time's the charm, yeah, indeed. Love it. Okay, so your big budget players then, Cancelo, Diaz and Stones, was it? And or was it Cancelo, Diaz and Walker? Sorry, say that again.
No. Cancelo, Diaz, and Stones is what I would go for. In terms of a budget option, I'm again going for Everton, and I'm going to go for Mason Holgate, who I think I mentioned on the last show. I thought had Sadio Mane in his pocket. We actually did that show before Match of the Day, where the professional pundits have a look at it, and they pointed out that actually towards sort of midway through the second half, Jurgen Klopp made Mane change position.
Wow.
He couldn't get a look in. So he literally changed him to a 10 because Holgate was bullying him. So that just shows how good a game he had and how good a pundit I am for actually picking that out before I even saw someone talking about it. Mason Holgate is 4.8 million.
Yep, just
I think,
just 46 points so far this season. So, but you're tipping him to come in for what? Just for this week or just for the long term? I mean, looking at their fixtures moving forward.
I mean, if you're looking at the squad that they played, I would say actually potentially for the season, because he can play right back, he can play as a centre half, and Everton can also play with a back five. So I think the player that will kind of be dropping out there is someone like Ben Godfrey. Whereas I think Mason Holgate is definitely a player that Ancelotti likes. He's had injury troubles this season, which I think is why his total was so low. I think when he's available, he plays.
Okay, brilliant. Is that kind of it for your defensive options then? Have you got any more you want to shout about? Any mentions, or should we move on to midfielders?
No, I mean, I mentioned Stuart Dallas at the beginning. I think that not having any Leeds players in my squad this season will lose me the title. But I'm sticking to my guns. I won't put any of them in. But
fair enough. Okay, we'll look at midfielders then now. So midfield is where I've got a bit of a problem injury-wise. Looking into this game week, Maddison and Grealish I've both got as showing warnings. Do we expect them to play? Do we expect them to not play? I mean, and surely they're recommendations, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, I think Grealish was initially ruled out for a month, or was rumoured to be a month. It's a tricky one. I mean, I think if Maddison plays, then he plays well. I mean, I just love watching his interviews after the game. You can tell just how confident he is at the moment. He's got a little bit of arrogance. I mean, he seems like a top bloke. Well, someone you'd like to have a drink with. But he's got enough arrogance, and you can kind of see those performances on the pitch. And you can see those points rolling in when he does play.
Okay, and so who are you sort of recommending then for your midfield wise? I want some expensive options and I want some cheapo options.
Do you remember how last week I had a feeling about Harry Kane?
Where's this going?
I remember how the week before that I had a feeling about Ben Mee. In my defence on Ben Mee, I didn't know he was going to get concussed for the second game, and he would have got me more points. But anyway, I've got a feeling about Mo Salah.
Oh really? Intriguing.
So when we're talking expensive options, we're talking really expensive options. We've got 12.6 million for Mo Salah, but I fancy him to do well against Chelsea, and their game before that is against Sheffield United, and I think he might get 2 or 3 goals, maybe even 3 or 4 across this game week.
That is a very expensive option, isn't it? I mean, you could get 2.5 Bukayo Sakas for that money, couldn't you?
Well, I guess what I'd say is that, obviously, if someone doesn't have them in their squad already, they probably won't be able to afford him. But if you do have him, this is a great week to play one of either your bench boost or your triple captain.
Yes.
So if you've got him already, I would tip Mo Salah potentially for triple captain this week.
Okay, so he's your sort of premium recommendation, is he? Out of, are there any other? Is it just a bit of a foregone conclusion now that we're all picking Bruno Fernandes anyway, so we don't need to talk about him?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think also it's one of those players you always get decent season. Dominic Calvert-Lewin was one of them for a long time. Even if you didn't really fancy him to score in a game, you wanted to put him in because you knew that everybody else would.
Yeah.
So if you dropped points, then everyone would drop points and it would be fine. But you don't want to risk losing that kind of head start by having him in.
Yeah.
So I think everyone's going to have Bruno Fernandes anyway.
Yeah.
Whether they make him captain or not.
Honourable mention for Ilkay Gundogan. I think his run is maybe coming to a bit of an end. 6.1 million for a cheap option there. And also honourable mention, Harvey Barnes for 6.9. A king of the game week last week. Harvey Barnes is a good budget option, right? And if you're thinking that Maddison's not going to play, maybe it's good to get him out and Barnes in if you would still want the Leicester effect. Okay, let's have a look at strikers, shall we? And who have you got for me then, striker-wise?
Feeling, Joe. Got another feeling. I think Harry Kane will actually do it this week.
Yeah?
Spurs have got Burnley and Fulham. So I actually one earlier that I didn't mention was Hugo Lloris, because actually I think they'll probably get at least one clean sheet there. Would be another option in goal, but I think Harry Kane will, just like Mo Salah, score 2 to 4 goals in this game week. He is 11.1 million though.
I think
so. That's my
to me
that's
that seems
my pricey option.
That seems like a cheap Harry Kane to me.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, if you had him earlier, he was even cheaper. I think I've got him and he's about 10.7, which is, he must have started ridiculously low. My cheap option isn't that cheap, but for a striker is okay, and for how good this guy's been, still seems ridiculously cheap. Dominic Calvert-Lewin is 7.7 million.
Yeah.
Just mind everyone, they've got Southampton and West Bromwich Albion. So you've got to fancy him to score in at least one of those.
Yeah, this one may be a week where you bench Bamford, is it?
I would say so.
Because they've only got the one game. Also, you're looking at Arsenal as having a single game week as well. You want to watch out for that. So watch out for your single game weeks.
I'd also point to West Ham, who have a single game week, and that single game is Manchester City.
Yeah.
So all you Lingard fans.
Yeah, well, luckily I didn't go too heavy on West Ham recently, so I think I'll be all right. But there's a reason I'm, like 2.5 millionth in the table. Anyway, what are you saying for captains then? You touched on triple captain earlier for Salah. Anyone else got a few more picks for me?
Yeah, I think if she's got them in your squad already, then Salah and Harry Kane are great shouts. I would be tempted. I think I've worked out a way around Pep's rotation, given that they've won 19 in a row. Their defence has been kind of pivotal to that. So it tends to be that at least one of Stones or Ruben Dias will start. Pep doesn't tend to sub on an extra centre half to kind of keep it tight at the end.
Yeah,
it's not his kind of philosophy. So I would potentially, I'd fancy Man City to do very well this game week, and maybe captain Dias and vice captain Stones, or vice versa.
Interesting.
The only thing that could let you down there would be that it's obviously a double game week. He likes to sort of rotate. But in a single game week, I think that would be the way to get around Pep's.
How about
Pep's madness?
if there's one player that he's not going to rotate in those games, it'll be Ederson, won't it?
Yeah.
I
Good
mean,
shout. The one that you have already.
Have you ever captained a goalkeeper?
Yeah, I'm sure I have. I captained Ben Mee a couple of weeks ago. I think I was probably the only person in the country that did that. But
yeah, it's a funny one, isn't it? I mean, I'm quite tempted to captain Ederson. All this chat about him taking pens and stuff recently, I know it's died down a bit, but can you imagine if I captain Ederson and he scores?
What's funny is that the talk came out of that week that, he's actually a really good striker of ball. he could take penalties. And then he actually got an assist in the following game.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he got an assist. And
So,
though he played like a blinding ball to Jesus, didn't he? Like it's mad. But yeah,
he's the kind of goalkeeper that you want to stick with for a whole season, because he probably will get you at least 1 or 2, maybe even 3 assists.
Yeah, it's
so you don't want to drop him, because then that would be the game week that he doesn't do it, or he actually gets an assist. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Roz, for your fantasy tips for this week. It's been a pleasure keeping your company for the last 25 minutes. Good luck to you in this mammoth double game week. And those of you watching live, we'll see you tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. GMT for the game week preview, where we take a more sort of tactical, analytical look at the game week ahead. If you like what you've been watching, then drop a like on the video, get in the comments, say something nice. Subscribe to the channel and allow notifications so you never miss a live stream like this. We're also on Patreon, patreon.com/Joe Carter EPLW. And you can head to Twitter and follow us at EPLW Pod to see some of Roz's favourite memes off of the interweb thingy. Roz, see you tomorrow.
Awesome, mate. See ya.